Welcome to another edition of House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Victor Producer, and joining me, as always, is NFL staff writer for Sports Illustrated, MMQB, is Gilbert Manzano. Gilbert, are you just as excited as I am to get this NFL season started? We've gone through the whole off season. We speculated. Now we're finally here. How excited are you to start the season tomorrow
Yeah,
with Chiefs Ravens?
it's going to be a pretty good week one schedule. Like you mentioned, Chiefs versus Ravens. Then we got that weird game in Brazil, which it's not sounding like it's going to be a good thing for Brazil and the players, but on paper, this is a very exciting game. Packers, Eagles. I don't even know which team to pick there. It's a very close game. Then Sunday Night Football, Rams and the Lions, very entertaining game. A rematch for the Lions from a very entertaining wild card game. And I think I just saw a story. I was doing a quick Google search of Kelly Stafford saying she won't be at the game for mental health reasons. Obviously, the storyline with Stafford return Detroit was a big thing last year. So maybe this time around it will be a little more easy going, free going for the quarterback. But just an amazing week one schedule. Even like a game like Cardinals, Bills. I've been talking up the Cardinals, Chargers, Raiders. Obviously, the What's Up Boats crew has been breaking that one down. But just so many good games, and we're finally here to football, less than 24 hours away for a real game.
Yeah, and what a difference a year makes, Gilbert, as we talk about this Rams team and we get ready to preview this matchup between the Rams and the Lions. Week one, as you talked about on Sunday Night Football. So, just to let everybody know what we got for them today, we got our usual, what we usually do for our game previews here, which is, we break down this matchup, we give you news and notes, player matchups to watch, storylines for both teams, keys to the game, and then we ended with our predictions. But Gilbert, before we get started with all that, and just we usually end up doing here is we do an engagement question. Do you have an engagement question for the viewers and listeners of House of Horns?
Yeah, but I have a feeling I know the answer here. But for going into this big season for the Rams, especially after what they did last year, surprising the whole world, surprising me because I thought the Rams weren't going to be any good last year. In this, I guess, remember it was the big three and then a very terrible roster. That wasn't the case. Puka Nakua emerged. So now when we know the whole story there, but keep in mind, no Aaron Donald. What is a reasonable expectation for the Rams in 2024? Is it Super Bowl or bust? Because again, last year they made a mark in the NFL. They have a strong roster. Go ahead and set that bar so high to the Super Bowl, or maybe it's the same kind of benchmark from last year of what they did. Because again, no Aaron Donald. Maybe they're a playoff team, or maybe the first step is dethroning the 49ers in the NFC West, beat them at the division, get that division title, and then you become a legit Super Bowl contender. So maybe winning the NFC West could be a big mark there. Obviously, I know people are going to say, getting back to the playoffs is definitely the highest priority there. But I'm just curious to see if the listeners here at House of Horns views them as a legit contender. I know they're people are fans. They have some homer goggles sometimes, but let's be legit here. How do you realistically see the Rams for this team? I think it's tough to gauge because they are a playoff team, but the whole Aaron Donald dynamic, I've been stuck on that for the entire offseason. But I like what Leslie did. Obviously, trading away Ernest Jones. We haven't spoken since Ernest Jones got
Yes.
traded. Leaves a little sour taste going into the regular season. So overall, it's been an up and down roster, but I think still at least playoffs or better is a reasonable expectation, at least for me.
Yeah, and I mean, just kind of going over what they've done over the offseason, they have a really good team here offensively. But I think from what we've seen so far, Gilbert, in terms of the preseason, is there's a lot of unknowns with this team. And, I think as we talked about expectation, we're talking about, in this matchup, you have the Lions team who's already they're looked at as a Super Bowl or bust kind of situation going on with them. And then you have the Rams. It's like, okay, are they where the Lions were last year, where they almost made the playoffs and then they go and they win the division, as you talked about? And so now with the Rams, is that the expectation? And I think so for me, Gilbert, I just wanted to ask you this, and more so because you cover the National Football League as a whole. In terms of what you've been hearing and what you've been seeing around the league, you know, in terms of the expectations for the Rams, I know that it's if this team is gonna meet those expectations, it's a playoff. So what is it? What is the key for them to meet those expectations this season? Is it as simple as you have Sean McVay and he's the key, or is there something else for you that needs to happen for them to be able to meet those expectations that everybody has around the league?
Yeah, I guess on the bright side, or comparing it to last season, there was just so much unknown, so much uncertainty. Like you didn't know what this, new phase of Sean McVay and Rams football is going to look like. When you have a rookie class that produces right away and you build a new core group, that helps you so much. So you don't have that issue where you don't know who's going to be your star players or your playmakers. But there are some holes on this roster, some uncertainty, and I keep going back to the defense, and I keep going back to our interview with Adam Grossbar, the Rams beat reporter for the Orange County Retro, saying, honestly, I don't know what to expect with the Rams defense. And that's kind of where I am as well. Like the whole Aaron Donald aspect has been overlooked because that is a testament to what Les Snead has done on the defensive front. Kobe Turner, Byron Young, Braden Fisk, uh, Jared Verse, and you can even throw Michael Hoyt in there as a rotational piece. But they prepared well for life after Aaron Donald, and maybe that's why that storyline hasn't been talked about as much. Or at least I'm talking about it, but people on the outside haven't. But you got to look at the linebacker group. It's I'm gonna keep it real. It's probably the worst linebacker unit in the NFL. When you lost Ernest Jones, that one didn't make sense to me. I get it. It's a business. You want to move on, and that's the way the Rams operate. But they're hurting right there. And then the
Yeah.
second there, you bet on guys who are older and have injury concerns. You need guys like Cam Crow to step up, who was your big free agent addition. You need guys like Russ Yeast and Quentin Lake to take a step forward. At cornerback, I just don't see enough talent there. That's why I'm concerned. But maybe Tre'Davious White turns back the clock and stays healthy. Maybe Darius Williams turns back the clock and stays healthy. You never know. And obviously, the other factor is Raheem Morris. So there are still some holes there and uncertainty with the Rams. But to give you kind of the whole point of view here, the Rams I feel like are still a trendy pick because of what they did last year. People are not forgetting about what they did. They surprised a lot. Yeah, there's still some pieces there where you want to work on, but when you have Puka Nakua, you have Cooper Cup, you have Matthew Stafford, and by the way, when you have Sean McVay, you're always going to count on Sean McVay because of what he did last year. When people thought that Sean McVay was ready to go to the booth and he forgot about football and they counted him out, you saw what he did in 2023. He's still one of the best damn coaches in the NFL, and that's why you're always going to have a chance when you have the quarterback and you have the coach, and then you have some good pieces all around there when you're drafting well. So those are big recipes there to be a team that continues to win on a yearly basis. I keep seeing the Rams as this trendy pick to make it to a divisional round, maybe even push the 49ers for the division. I think that's the biggest step, Victor, when I started
Yes.
talking on top of the show, is beating the 49ers for the division to truly become a legit Super Bowl contender. When they get back when they got back Trent Williams, when they got back Brandon Ayuk, I'm like, oh crap, maybe things are going to stay the same there. And to plug a story that's coming out for me on Friday at si.com, I'm gonna try something different this year. I'm gonna have like more of a betting column for the end of the week, more focus on picks and betting things. But I'm gonna call people who I know from Las Vegas to give me some trends of what's going on at the sports books. And to give you a quick preview here, one of them told me the Rams are being heavily favored, not by the public, by the sharp bettors. The sharp bettors are the ones they know
Oh yeah.
follow the money. They're the ones that are well informed. So when I hear that, the sharp bettors are betting on the Rams to beat the 49ers in the NFC West. That says a lot for in terms of the whole national outlook for the Rams there.
Yeah, and I mean the Rams also have a second place schedule, and that factors in. And as we talked about, yesterday we had our preview show for the season and we made our predictions. And I have the Rams going in. I kind of wavered a little bit, Gilbert, here and there, just because. And the reason we're having this discussion is because we haven't been around. We weren't around last week. We did a projection show, and then We didn't get a chance to kind of give our thoughts in terms of the season preview for the Rams, and so we're trying to do that now, quickly, and then we'll get into previewing this game. But um, Gilbert, I have the Rams getting in. Like I said, I waver back and forth just because of the injuries that have crept in the last couple of weeks. You also have the uncertainty with the defense as you talked about, but I still have this team. I have them at 10-7, and I have them making the playoffs and as a 7 seed. So for me, that like I said, I think with the turnover you've had this off season, I think the reasonable expectation is to make the playoffs again. Now, I think the icing on the cake, as you talked about it, would be to beat the 49ers for the division and take that next step, kind of like what you saw the Lions do last season.
Yeah, and to share my, I guess my playoff bracket, I also had the Rams in the playoffs, and like yourself, Victor, I kept going back and forth. Some weeks I didn't like the Rams, some weeks I did. But at the end of the day, when you think about the head coach and the quarterback, think about it. I know the offensive line is banged up, but if they're healthy, they're going to be good. And we'll discuss the shuffling in the offensive line. That's a concern there. But Jonah Jackson being added, Kevin Dotson being retained, Puka Nakua getting better in year two. Like there's a lot of pieces here to like them at least as a playoff team. And I'll say this, maybe people are going to boo me. I don't like them as much as the 49ers in the division just yet. They, you know, they had that Chiefs kind of vibe where like they haven't won the whole thing, but they're still pretty good. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go off of reputation and what they've done. Like, they get in the playoffs pretty on a yearly basis. At least they proved that they might be one of the best teams to kind of get the Rams fans back on my side. They could end up being one of the best teams that never got it done. So you don't want to be remembering history to being the best team that never won a Super Bowl. So they're in that territory where they are good, but they can't finish it. Hey, but the Rams have got in their way many times too with this Kyle Shanahan and this Sean McVay, back and forth rivalry. So I'm not ready to say the Rams are better than the 49ers in terms of the division, but I do have the Rams going to the divisional round in my bracket. I think I had them. Who did I have them? They were losing. Oh, I already forgot. But they got to the second round. It might be the Lions. It might be another rematch against the Lions. I forgot already. So I got them in divisional round at least. That's one step further than last year. So it feels like that they could go a step further. I'm just not ready to give it 2-3 more steps there. But I do feel like this is a team that could get better. I just don't see a massive jump, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And I think it takes steps, especially like we talked about, you know after you kind of rebuild this team. I mean, they reloaded. It only took one season, and they were right back in the mix, and that has a lot to do with Sean McVay. So shout out to him, and also Les Need and what the job they've been doing. Let me get to some of these comments before we get our to news and notes, and then we'll start breaking down this matchup between this wild card rematch from last season, between the Rams and the Lions. We have DJ Fono who says Batman boys, let's go Rams. Delver Salgado says health, chemistry, momentum is the key. Don't count these young bucks out. I predicted 11 wins. Missing ink will be Shula's defense. Oh, missing link will be Shula's defense. So there you go. So that's reasonable. You got Manuel Correa. He says, "What's up, guys? What's going on, Manuel?" And then he's predicting. He's either saying, "I think either 12-5 or 11-6."
Okay.
And then we got our guy, Don
Hey.
Coleon. Big weekend, gentlemen. He's a Lions fan, so good to have him back on here. It's good to see, people from fans from other teams. But Gilbert, let's get to some news and notes, and plus the injury report here. And I'll start off from the last time we kind of talked about it. The last time we were on here, we talked about the 53-man roster projection, and I told you I have a feeling that Ernest Jones is probably going to get traded. That ended up happening. So Ernest Jones gets traded along with the 6th round pick to the Titans for a 5th round pick. Just give me your, quick reaction to what, hearing the news when that happened.
And I'll repeat myself. I get the business side. I get that Les Snead sometimes doesn't, or even Sean McVay. They don't want the nonsense. That's why we saw how it played out with Cam Akers. Like, man, we're tired of this guy. He's in the doghouse, and he found his way back on the roster. But eventually, they moved on when Kyron Williams was ascended last year on the roster. So, I get reputation. I get the way the Les Need and Sean McVay operate, but man, you have a massive hole now in the middle of your defense. This guy got 145 tackles last year. He managed to get 117 when Bobby Wagner was on the roster. He still made an impact, even though he wasn't, the middle linebacker or the Mike as you call them. So, he was a captain too for the team. You lose that aspect there. So, in a year where you're trying to move on from Aaron Donald and you had an experienced player, a captain, a playmaker, a guy who could protect the back end of the young defensive line, because these guys are all first year guys, second year guys, and then you trade them for what, like a sandwich and peanut butter? Like I don't understand. Like it was like a 6th round pick in 2026. Like that's all you got for Ernest Jones. Like let me know in the
Yeah.
comments, because I thought that was something that really stood out to me. Like it felt like they just wanted to get rid of the guy. Something must have gone wrong in contract negotiation where they got pretty annoyed. We're like, that's all you got for a player that's talented. Yes, he doesn't have a big name. Yes, he's not a Pro Bowler. Yes, he wasn't an All Pro. But I thought Ernest Jones for the Rams was pretty good. And then you even had, like I think they even had to give up a pick just to get that pick
Yes, the
back. So it
sixth
was
round
like a
pick. Yeah.
so yes, it was a 5th round pick in the future for Ernest Jones and a 6th rounder. Like, really, that's all you got for Ernest Jones? That did not sit right with me. I from the Titans aspect, I like a lot of the things the Titans are doing. That was another move that I thought the Titans were doing to become a winning franchise, or at least a playoff franchise. I'm not ready to go all in on the Titans, Victor. I know you're higher on them than I am, but it's been
Yeah.
at least on paper a great season for the Titans, and for shout out to them to pick up a player like that to help them out defensively. But it just didn't make sense to me in terms of the football aspect, business wise, no nonsense. Get the hell out because you're becoming a nuisance to the locker room. I get that, and it does work out. And I'm gonna give the Rams the benefit of the doubt, especially Les Snead and Sean McVay last year. Even with take away Ernest Jones. Actually, no, I can't say that. I was gonna say maybe this roster defensively is still better than what we were expecting a year ago. But last year it had Aaron Donald, so I can't say that. But they did do some upgrades. I get Tre'Davious White is injury concerns are there, but he is a better cornerback than maybe what they had last year. Jerry Verse, Braden Fist, this and that. You can compare this back and forth, but it's going to be a big loss regardless.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, now, I because I was doing some reading and just to try to figure out who was going to take over for Ernest Jones. I know a lot of people want Omar S-
Spates?
Speeds
I'm going with the
Spates.
8. I'm going
No,
Spates.
Omar Spates. I finally got it right, Gilbert.
Yeah.
I've been listening. Omar Spates. Um, but it just sounds from just reading some of the B reporters, it sounds like it's going to be Troy Reader, who is the who replaces him as of now. He's going to be
Mm.
and he's also going to have the green dot. He'll be the one calling the defense. So
I've seen Troy
just
Reader
some
play. Let's just say that.
yeah, so we'll see how that works out. But as you know, now I'll read this comment here just because it has something to do with what we're talking about. Delver says gonna miss Jones, but this isn't Raheem's defense, so maybe he just didn't fit.
Scheme,
Maybe Ernest
which
Jones didn't fit the scheme that Chris Shula wants to run. So
I find that hard
maybe
to
that's
believe. I think it's more business side, but yes, it could be something.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we'll find out. Like I said, we'll get more in depth in our storylines with this. Next thing was there's just some coaching news with the coaching staff, Gilbert. The Rams parted ways with assistant special teams coach Shilly Davis. And then
Mm.
Rams also hired Scott Frost. He is expected to help with all three phases of the coaching staff, including special teams, and because of after the departure of Chili Davis. And this is how I know I'm getting old. I actually saw Scott Frost play football at
Mm.
Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska hasn't been the same since Tom Osborne left. I mean, I was a huge Nebraska fan growing up with Tommy Frazier. Then you had, Scott Frost there later on. But yeah, Scott Frost is now a coordinator. It looks like he's going to help in every phase of the team here. Any thoughts on the coaching kind of
Yeah,
musical
maybe
chairs?
you've done your more research than I have, but it's kind of a weird switch this late in the game. And then, but it's still a good hire. Scott Frost, well respected coach. What he did at Central Florida, going to Nebraska. You mentioned his resume as a player in college. So and also too, like Sean McVay knows how to hire people. He had to do it on the fly and very quickly. And I don't know what the heck happened to make a change so late, but It's a big name hire. I think it sounds like a good hire, and going off of McVay's reputation, I think it should work out. But it's tough. You do have your special coordinator still there, and Chase Blackburn, and but when you know in the back of your mind how rough it's been for special teams, it makes you wonder what the heck really happened behind the scenes there.
Yeah, and I mean, I know there was a big question mark when, and I know Ram fans were not happy with Shake Blackburn. They felt that he should have been replaced, but at least you get one of those guys out of there now with Chili Davis, and you bring in someone like Scott Frost, and you see if things kind of are better. Like as we talked about, you just need this special teams unit to be, average for them, to be good, to do better this season. But moving on, Gilbert, the Rams lead the NFL with 17 rookies on the roster for 2024. I think three or four, five of them are undrafted guys. So, I mean, it just tells you, as we talked about too, Gilbert. This goes to show you that the Rams, if they're gonna put the best players available out there. They don't care if they go young. They're gonna coach them up and develop them.
Yeah, no, that's something that you admire from the Rams. You know, it kind of ties in with the business, right? Where like anybody can be replaced unless you're Aaron Donald. You could be replaced, and you draft somebody, you find somebody undrafted. You look through the free agent market, and you take a chance on these guys because they fit the scheme, or they take good coaching, or your pro scouting department, and you really have trust in your college scouting department. You have trust in, so that's a big takeaway from last year that we really got to learn from the Rams. That like when they revamp the roster and they shuffle it and turn it upside down, and you have this new crop of stars, that's all because of the way they scout and take chances on players. So that does not surprise me. They're having a young roster.
Yeah, and then we'll see what happens with these rookies like we talked about. You have a rookie kicker, which we'll talk about. We'll get into next, and and then the Jared Verse and Brandon Fisk. So you're gonna depend a lot on your rookies this season. And the next thing here is Sean McVay announced that the team plans on using Kyron Williams as a punt returner. So I have a couple comments here, and then I have a question here as well. So you have DJ Fono who says everyone is a bit concerned with Kyron and Blake being returners, and I also got a text from my brother-in-law because this has to do with fantasy news, and he asked, "Do you think the Rams will be sharing his workload from Blake Corum?" So, what are your thoughts on this, Gilbert? And if you can answer Kevin's question there about whether or not Kyron Williams and Blake Corum are going to be sharing their load now if he's going to be returning punts.
Well, first of all, pat to myself on the back because I had a chance between Kyron Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. I took Marvin Harrison Jr., but that's not a knock on Kyron Williams. And it was funny seeing how people, in terms of the fantasy football world, were making a big deal out of it. And honestly, like I even mentioned on the show, like if you've been paying attention, like they've been really trying out Kyron Williams,
Yes.
all the running backs at being returners. Like
You
it's
did talk about that. You brought
like
it up a couple of times during our podcast.
Like I watched that scrimmage with the Chargers. Like Kyron Williams was back there taking a bunch of kickoff returns, punt returns. Like I was surprised it was punt return, but I expected some kind of return duty. And a little story I might have mentioned already, but when I my kickoff story feature for that came out in the SI magazine is going to come out online tomorrow, and I actually have a couple of quotes from Kyron Williams, and I didn't put this in the story, but he did not want to do returns. He was a star running back coming off a breakout season. He's like, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I don't want to do returns, but if my numbers call, I will do it gladly. I'm a team player. But he didn't want to do it. So I kept thinking for his sake, hopefully he doesn't get to do it. So when I kept watching him at the scrimmage against the Chargers, I'm like, he's gonna do it. I have a feeling him, Blake Corum. And then they release or cut Boston Scott. I'm like, okay, that's it. Like Boston Scott
Yeah.
was the only way that Kyron wasn't gonna do it. So I think they see something in him that they feel like he could be explosive. They even tried doing that his rookie year, but he got hurt on the opening kickoff against the Buffalo Bills. So I don't think there's too much alarm bells there. Maybe the Blake Corum thing should be more concerning because he's going to take away some workload there for Kyron Williams. But in terms of the punt return thing and being relegated to the back of the depth chart, I'm not reading into that. I think Kyron's going to have a good year. Maybe he won't be so much of a heavy workload that he got last year because he was pretty much the beating heart of the offense. When he got hurt, we saw how that happened. The Rams didn't just forget about that. It's more like, okay, let's try to keep this guy fresh. He's very dynamic. That's why they got Blake Corum to maybe spell him in the running game. But he's still so dynamic. Why don't you use that in the return game? So
Right.
uh, I would not be surprised if he does kickoff too. Maybe it's all head games here for people. But like the Rams don't really have like a bona fide punt returner or kick return. So I think they're experimenting right now, and it might change throughout the whole year.
Yeah, and we talked about this, early in the offseason too, Gilbert. I said if I'm a lot of these teams, especially with special teams, I try to use a running back. Now, I didn't think they were going to use Kyron Williams, and then you told me that hey, I've been seeing him returning kicks during practice, and I'm like, okay, it looks like it might happen. I don't think it like as you talked about. I have him in a fantasy league as well. I don't think it's going to be a problem. Um, as we talked about, one of the things, and with someone that I follow that is a good friend of the show, the Compas on the Beat, is Adam Hill. Adam Hill is a big special teams guy, and he's talked about how the percentages of teams kicking the ball into the end zone has gone down a little bit. It hasn't gone down like we all expected.
Yeah,
And he kind of envisions that I think once the season starts, just because one of the things we've talked about, Gilbert, was some of these teams are going to lose games off their special teams, and some teams are going to win, being creative. And I think some head coach just like Sean McVay, who every time he gets asked this question about special teams, he just says he hates it. So I would think that he's just going to have his kicker kick the ball into the end zone and not even worry about it. And I think we're kind of making a big deal out of the whole Kyron Williams situation, where I think he just wants to play it safe, make sure that he can have a guy back there who can catch the ball and not turn the ball over, because his special teams was the worst, of eight, one of the worst special teams crew of all time. It was like eighth all
yeah.
time. So he just wants to make sure that hey, let's play it safe. So that's just you know I think that's what's going to really happen.
Part of me wonders if Sean McVay is just bluffing, like, oh, like I
Yeah,
hate this rule. I'm like, you're part of the committee, man. You like the rule changes and
exactly.
all that. Like, you have a big say and a big voice. But I don't know. Maybe he really does hate it there. And obviously, he has a terrible special team. I think he might have a good kicker. We'll see with
Yeah.
Cardi. But uh, I don't know. Maybe there's some kind of like mind games because it's probably the most unique rule in a very long time in the NFL. I'm sure there's been others, but like something to this extent where you have to like change your coaching style, change your fundamentals, change your scheme. Like it's drastically different. But then at the same time, when you talk about you mentioned Adam Hill, like part of me also worries that teams are just going to kick it to the back of the end zone and be content with the team starting at the 30, like yeah, at the 30-yard line, and it
Yeah.
almost got to a point where they're going to kick it to the 35-yard line. I'm like, man, teams are just going to take the 35 every single time. So uh, it comes to the touchback, but it just so much unknowns there to see how you do. Like we've been talking about the offseason. That's one aspect I'm gonna be excited for the opening week of the NFL. But I don't think you should read too much into the Kyron Williams thing. I think it's a good time to experiment right now. Sean McVay might be bluffing when it comes to his hatred for the kickoff rule, but I'm not surprised when the news came out though.
Talking about playing head games, and this goes to the next thing he kind of announced. That was that the Rams have been working Jonah Jackson at center and Steve Avila back at left guard to get the best combo on the field versus the Lions. Now, I don't want to get your thoughts because this will be part of storylines coming up. So just keep that in mind there. We'll get back to it so that way we can get through the news and notes. The next thing, Gilbert, is the Rams announced that their jersey schedule. So the white will be week 1, week 3, week 4, week 9, week 11, week 13, week 15, and week 16. Royal blue, which I'm wearing, is going to be week 6, 7, 10, 12, 14, 17, and 18. And then the bone jersey is going to be week 2 and week 8. So the not a lot of big, combinations. It's just going to be 3 of them, and for the majority of them they're going to go with the white and the royal blue, and then you'll get 2 weeks of the bone jersey. So, I mean, not it's not a big deal to us,
Yeah.
but I'm sure a lot of people who attend games and get ready to watch the games in jerseys want to know which color they're gonna sport so they can also match with what the players are wearing that game.
Yeah, I've never been a big uniform guy or keeping track of uniform. I know people really care about it, and it's a big deal for
Yeah.
fan bases. But I'm glad we shared it for them. But I'm not really
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah, and then now just the injury report. I got it right as we were gonna jump on. So just three players for the Lions here. Lions, Melufanu, the safety. He's got an
Yeah.
ankle injury. He was limited. DJ Reader, defensive tackle. He's got a quad. I was kind of listening and reading some stuff from the Lions. It doesn't look good for DJ Reader, from what I've heard. They're hopeful he can play, but we'll see. But he was a limited practice participant, and then also Lawrence Strickland, safety. He did not practice. Now, it did say on their website that they did not practice today, so this was just preliminary. Like this was would have been their designation had they practiced today. Heading over to the Rams, Jonah Jackson, offensive lineman, shoulder. He was a full participant. Puka Nakua, wide receiver, knee, full participant. Rob Havenstein, all lineman, with an ankle. He was a limited participant. Darius Williams, defensive back, hamstring, limited practice, and Kobe Durant, hamstring as well, limited practice. So, do you have any concerns in terms of the injury designations for the Rams?
For the Rams, obviously it's still early in the week, but hopefully you have Rob Havenstein. It's not good that Darius Williams is still dealing with the hammy. You need him to be out there healthy. Same thing with Kobe Durant. So offensive line, you can't really afford to be because you already have Larry Jackson suspended, but you can't afford to have another guy who's especially as important as Rob Havenstein not play. But hopefully he does suit up. You have to face Aiden Hutchinson and Leo McNeil and Marcus Davenport. But on the Lions front, if you don't see DJ Reader, that makes life a little easier because DJ Reader was supposed to be one of their big prize free agent additions. If he's not there, you don't really see that new front for the Lions, but the Lions still have plenty of talent.
Yeah, and we'll see who they have out there as we talked about. I know there was some concerns about Laporta and who was the other guy that was on the injury report. I know Laporta was on the injury report of someone else, and yeah, he's good to go. So that's good to see. All right, Gilbert. Before we move on to what do we got? Rams and Lions storylines. Let me go through these comments real quick. So uh, let's see where I left off. We have Michael Armenta says Rams win the West, beat the Lions in the NFC title game, then beat KC in the Super Bowl. You read it here first, compa. So there you go. Michael is very, very he's very positive about the Rams.
It doesn't sound
Um,
crazy though, so but I get it.
yeah, and then we got our guy Don Corleone says Detroit defense is going to surprise people this year. Think about this: Lions OC has turned down head coaching jobs to stay with the Lions. What does that tell you? And we'll get into it in
Yeah.
storylines, but yeah, like we'll talk about it, Don. I mean, there's some things about the Lions that we're gonna discuss in our storyline segment. And then I think Delbert got me confused with Fernando, but he says don't start talking about the win on Fernando. I do remember, haha. So
That's
and
Victor
then
Delbert. Victor.
yes, and then Michael Armenta says, "Well, AD 99 make a return mid to late season?" And honestly, listening to people, it sounds like he's not. And then he's kind of said he's done. I mean, I think he's put that to rest. We all hope he does come back just because of how great of a player he is. But I thought we see a return from AD 99. And then Don, once again, with the holes on the left side of the Rams O line, look for Sam Houston to be in the face of Stafford all day. So we'll get into that as well. But here we go, Gilbert. Let's go to Rams storylines. Let's start off with Lions, and as as Don, kind of started there with the defense. My question is to you. You follow the NFL as a whole. Will the new upgrades on the defense take this team to the next level,
For the Lions, right?
or the Lions? And I
Yeah,
can give you the names: DJ Reader, Marcus Davenport, Carlton Davis the third, Terry and Arnold, Amik Robinson, and us, and then you have some other guys, McNeil, you have Sam Houston on that defensive line. I mean, they've upgraded. I think my biggest question mark on that defense is the linebackers. I want to see if they make that jump, in season two. But it's your floor. Sorry, Gilbert.
yeah. I'll start with the easy part, the things I don't like, but I'm not too. I'm okay with the linebackers. We'll see, like you mentioned, if Jack Campbell makes a jump there. They have some other playmakers there. Anzalone has been there for a long time, but he's a little older. So, but the ones that the areas I'm concerned with, they did have upgrades on the defensive front, but you could have used another, like a better. I'm not saying like a prime edge rusher. You have Aiden Hutchinson. You don't need to have two Aiden Hutchinsons, but like something a little better than Davenport. It just feels a little off. I know that Don mentioned Houston there. He had an up and down season last year. I think he was a rookie. Correct me if I was wrong, Don. But 2 years ago, he was surprised. They didn't really do much last year. So edge rushers, I still have little concern. But you have a stud in Aiden Hutchinson. I had some concerns about Hutchinson after a rookie year. I was like, it was okay, but it wasn't the best. Then he just took off in year two. That guy is dominant. And then they also the lack of depth at wide receiver. Like, Amon St. Brown, he needs some help out there. Like Jameson Williams was supposed to be that guy, JMO, and he hasn't really done much. Maybe this is a year, but after a while, you keep waiting for that jump and they never get there. I'm starting to worry he might not make that
Everybody's
jump.
picking to have a breakout season. I mean,
I'm not
according
picking
to
him.
reports, I mean, he's been catching everything. I'm just giving you the
Yeah.
information that I've
But
been hearing.
I shake my head because that's the same nonsense we get in the preseason. Yeah, it's the best. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm like, until I see this guy do something, like, not
Yeah,
he's gonna have one catch for 40 yards in one game and then disappear for 4 games. Like, you got to be consistent, man. Like, you can't be suspended, you can't be hurt, things like that. Whatever, we'll see it. But I'm gonna be one of the naysayers here. But I have seen the reports too as well, Victor. But that doesn't concern me because not to the good stuff. You have Sam Laporta. You have a two-headed monster in the backfield with Dave Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs. You know, you also have a very dynamic offensive line to make life easier. Panay Sewell, like I even wrote last year, like it's getting to a point where like the Lions might have more talent than the 49ers. Yeah, the 49ers have more star power, but look at the offensive line. It's probably better than the 49ers. Yes, they have Trent Williams, but you don't have.
it is better. I can tell you that. Outside
Okay,
of
so
Trent Williams,
I'm not wild
I'm with
there.
you. Yes.
So there's more depth there. Obviously, you probably have more weapons, but when you have Sam Laporta, who might maybe surpass Travis Kelce as the best tight end, I'm not ready to go there. Travis Kelce is still the best decorated tight end in terms of playoffs and Super Bowls, but he's taking a step off when it comes to regular seasons. That could be Laporta to help out. But then you got Jared Goff, who's doing great. Who knows? Maybe I think Jared Goff is better than Brock Purdy. I mean, I don't know if it's a hot take, whatever. And then you got a good play caller and Ben Johnson. Overall, to not go all day. They might have the best roster in the NFL. Maybe you put in the Chiefs there, but when you have Patrick Mahomes, that's a sizable advantage overall over everybody. Just Patrick Mahomes and everybody else there. But they're that good, and it's starting to annoy me, Victor, because it seems like everybody either has the Lions winning the Super Bowl or
Yep.
having them in the Super Bowl. Everybody likes the Lions, so Don, I don't know how you feel about that, but they are that damn good because of the upgrades they made, especially at a weak point. Like in that playoff game, Puka Nakua lit up the Lions secondary. 9 catches,
Yep.
181 yards, and a touchdown. A rookie went off on them. And you know what they did? They traded for Carlton Davis III. They drafted Terrion Arnold, who probably the steal of the draft. Ennis Rakestraw Jr., who was first round potential. You got him in the second round. You got the guy from the Raiders,
Yeah. Amik
Robertson,
Robinson.
and then that allowed them to move Branch to safety, which is more of his natural position. So Melifano, he's injured right now, but you were just loaded with dynamic playmakers in the secondary. So on paper, if Jared Goff keeps doing what Jared Goff has been doing, I think it's gone to a point now where we should trust the guy. They're going to be very good.
Yeah, and I'm with you. And I think part of the reason I'm one of those people who picked the Lions to make it to the Super Bowl. And honestly, the way I look at things is, as you talked about, you mentioned the talent that's there, and I know a lot of people are gonna crap on um Jared Goff, but Jared Goff has been good. And then I think for me also, Gilbert, is it's crazy. This franchise has been a dormant. I mean, you couldn't even get the Lions on primetime games, and now they're the darlings of the NFL. And it tells you how quickly things can change if you hire the right people when they, and you hired a former Ram in Brad Holmes. You go and you hire Dan Campbell. They got laughed at for hiring a CEO at head coach who was just a meathead that everybody thought. They got lucky with Ben Johnson. They fired, a compa, as as the offensive coordinator, and they hired Ben Johnson, who was doing tight ends. They let him run the offense, and look at what things happens when you actually do things the right way. You let people develop, and you give them time to insert players and staff into your program, and it's been great to see that. That's why, and they've been the Lions. I know this is a Ram show, but the Lions have been one of our teams on Combas on the Beach just because of the storyline, right? Like they've been that team. Eventually, you know, as they say, the glass slippers is gonna fall, and then everybody's gonna turn on them, and we've seen this. So right now, just enjoy the ride, just because the Lions have suffered for so long. As we talked about, the biggest thing that they had going for them is that they always hosted the Thanksgiving game, which was awesome to see for them. That was, their Super Bowl every year, it seemed like. And now you're talking about this team being a Super Bowl contender, and that's great to see. But as we talked about, I think for me, part of the reason that I have them in the Super Bowl is because look at their schedule. And I talked about it, on Compas on the Beat. They're gonna be indoors or in a dome for 75% of their games this season, Gilbert. The only time they go and play outside, I think after Halloween, or no, after week 9 is a trip to Chicago, and that's it. They play the Packers in Green Bay early in the season. So I think for this Lions team, it can they meet expectations? And as Tyler Dragon said, are they prepared to have everybody gunning for them? And I think that's where the question mark. I think if you have a question mark, is are they prepared to have the bullseye on their chest this season?
Yeah, and I think the NFC is very good, but there's less like legit contenders in the NFC. Like obviously you got the 49ers hovering there, but in the AFC, man, like if you like, that's why I kind of went on a limb. Like, you know what? I think the Texans could come out of it, but you still got you never know what the Jets could do. But I think if the Jets are healthy, it could be a contender. I am not gonna write off the Bills just because they lost to Stephon Diggs. Obviously, you got the Bengals, you got the Chiefs, and like it's starting to look like, honestly, like if you look at the AFC, it's still the Chiefs there. So I think the Chiefs and the Lions are kind of the trendy Super Bowl prediction right there, but. The Lions don't have the wear and tear of the Chiefs. They proved to us last year they know how to meet expectations. Like that's where I was a little hesitant on the Lions because I was even critical. I was like, why are you drafting Jameer Gibbs with your top 10 pick there? It's a running back, and now Jameer Gibbs, I love that player. He's an amazing player to watch. I had him on my fantasy team last year. He paid off in the back end of the stretch there, but now it's getting to the point where like whatever the Lions do, I don't care about the trend. I don't care about what's normal. I don't care about what works and what hasn't. I'm gonna trust the Lions because they have a reputation now of getting things right. Brad Holmes, the GM, he's getting it right with the picks. Dan Campbell, like you mentioned with the hiring of Ben Johnson, he's getting it right. He has a post on his roster and is reading it right. So they're becoming this team like when whatever the Chiefs do, whatever the Patriots used to do back in the day. Now it feels like a long time ago. You just trust what they did. It didn't make sense maybe on the outside, but you're gonna trust it because of the reputation, and that's what the Lions have done. And it's such a quick span there. So last year when they had 2 years ago they had that hot run where they won 7 out of 8 games. I'm like, I got to see it first, boy. I saw it last year. I'm definitely believing in them, and so did everybody else apparently because of all the picks coming in for Super Bowl for them.
Yeah, and I mean, they're a trendy pick for a reason, as we talked about. But like I said, it eventually is going to turn. And as someone just said here on the comments, it says it's crazy. Nigel Ward says it's crazy. Lion fans learn how to talk crap pretty fast. And one of the things I've seen, Gilbert, is I think I didn't know this, just coming from the outside, but they really don't like Kelly Stafford, and I think that's where their vitriol for the Staffords comes from, is just the way things were. I guess the way she acted towards Lions fans. it left a sour taste in their mouth. So I understand. I don't think it's a Rams thing. It's more of a Stafford thing, which I kind of understand. And I was listening just to kind of get some insight into the Lions heading into this week, and they're still talking about Kelly Stafford. So it tells you that, like they were asked about the two of the players that were made available, Deckard, and I forget who the other one was. They were asked about, the environment there, and the whole Stafford stuff, and they brought up the whole fact that, the Lions didn't do anything for Stafford last year. And why would you? It was a playoff game. You
Yeah.
might get something this year, but at the end of the day, I mean, the Rams got a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford, and I think the Lions are in such a great situation right now. Why are you worrying about what, Matthew Stafford and his wife are doing, and the fact that they're coming back? The reason you are in the position that you are is because you traded Matthew Stafford, and that should be your only worry right now.
Yeah, that's another example of why the Lions were getting it right. When people made fun of them for keeping Jared Goff and trading Matthew Stafford, and then they did this with Jared Goff, that tells you a lot there. But yeah, it's maybe becoming a little rivalry here. Maybe they play each other in the playoffs, and I'm totally with you on not doing anything for Stafford because it was a playoff game. It's a competitive game, you know.
Yeah.
Even like yesterday, people making a big deal about Shohei Ohtani not getting a special thing for the Angels. I'm like, why? Shohei
Why?
and the Angels didn't do anything. Like they lost a lot of
Right.
games. Who cares? Move on. You blew it, Angels. Don't get reminded of you blowing it by giving them a special ceremony. So I get it, but yeah, things like that. It's becoming a rivalry, and that's a good thing. Sometimes these rivalries are not in the division are a little fun because they're unique. It's like the Bengals and the Chiefs. It's kind of been a couple of years now, but things like that materialize away from the division as a surprise. Sometimes it's pretty good for football.
Yeah, and I like the whole Hollywood versus, blue collar. Like I'll eat all that stuff up. Like I don't get, it doesn't affect me, but I think it's pretty cool. Like you talked about, you need to manufacture some of these rivalries, and I like this. We're all pumped for this Sunday night game, so that's part of it. All right, Gilbert, moving on here. Uh, Another storyline, just quickly, is the Lions and Rams will both start rookie kickers. You have Bates with the Lions, and you have Cardi with the Rams. I mean, I guess at this point, you're just hoping that you don't need either guy there, but I think both of them are in good situations. You had Bates, who kind of kicked for the UFL team in Michigan there, and so he's familiar with Ford Field, and that's why he kind of signed there. And then you got Joshua Cardi, a rookie out of Stanford for the Rams, and that's the way to go right now. If you look around the league, you've had a couple of teams kind of take chances on rookie kickers. You don't really you hope you don't need them, but at the end of the day, if you can, if with Josh Cardi, I think it just comes down, can you hit your field goals inside the 40, inside the 50, and that's all you really want.
Yeah, it's always tough to rely on inexperienced kickers because there's this trend with kickers where they get so nervous early on because they don't really, do this for a living, or I guess they do it for a living, but like it's a different kind of pressure when everybody is all eyes on you and you're not this, big, strong, powerful football player. You're the kicker, and like you haven't done anything for the whole game. Now you're coming in to win a game. That's a lot of pressure. So a lot of these young kickers, don't do well. They get cut a couple of times, and then by their second and third stint, they're like these all pro kickers. So it happened with Daniel Carlson, happened with Cameron Dicker of the Chargers. Like it just Young Wake Koo, yeah, Koo, not there. I
Yes.
got it. Uh, all the time it happens. So, I think maybe patience is going to be tough for the Rams, but like Joshua Cardi, he made his kicks in the preseason, so that's a good sign. Preseason and the regular season is totally different. When there's a game on the line, there's pressure. That could be where you really find out if you have something here with Joshua Cardi, but we'll see. And then with the Lions, we saw what happened with Brandon Aubrey. He was bouncing around to some minor league football leagues or whatever you want to call them, other pro
And
football
former
leagues,
soccer player,
and former
exact same
soccer player.
story.
And
Yes.
he did well. So and somebody drafted Brandon Aubrey in our league, our fantasy football
Yes.
league, in the eighth round,
Seventh round.
seventh round. So whatever. So he's doing great. So credit to the Lions for taking a chance on somebody from that route there. But you never know. These kickers who are inexperienced, it's tough to deal with sometimes.
Yeah, and kickers, I mean, you can say there's like a top 15 now in kickers now out there. Like it used to be like Vinatieri, Tucker. Now you can just rattle off. That's why if you're talking about fantasy, you just wait or you just stream a kicker nowadays because there's so many good ones out there now. There's kickers that are hitting. We saw Audrey against the Raiders. He kicked a 66-yard field goal
Oh yeah.
in preseason. I mean, it's crazy now. Like some of these kickers are making the 60-yard field goals look automatic. So that's how good some of these kickers have become. And a lot of them are going after former soccer players. And that's why you see, guys like Bates and Aubrey out there, getting on NFL rosters. But now let's move on to the Rams here. And I'll mention this comment first from our guy, A what is it, Al G fella. I am baffled with the recent moves that the Rams have made, i.e., Kyron, the switching on the O line, inside linebackers may make sounding more like a politician, but the strain on his face shows strain. So, with that said, that goes to our next two storylines for the Rams here, Gilbert, and that is how will this defense look under new DC Chris Shula? And you kind of talked about it. We kind of went over this, but as you talked about what Adam Grossman said, we don't know. And I think part of the problem, Gilbert, with this is the fact that we didn't get to see Jared Burst. We didn't get to see Braden
Hmm.
Fisk. We thought we did see Omar Spates out there. We saw guys like that. That's why we don't know what to expect from this defense. And so I think that's part of the problem is that we're talking about preseason. We didn't see, you ask reporters, hey, what is your sense from training camp? Nobody knows because they haven't seen any of this, Gilbert.
Yeah, that's why I'm excited that the regular season is here. We could stop speculating. We're gonna see what happens. But like, yeah, anybody could look good in the summer and do well, and we could boast about the first round pick and the second round pick you traded for. Yeah, they better look good because you traded for them or whatever. You spent the high draft pick on them. But like at the end of the day, they're still rookies. At the end of the day, you're still gonna have to play without Aaron Donald. Like that safety net is not gonna be there. Can Kobe Turner take that step to become the leader of the defensive front, like the Aaron Donald? We're not expecting him to be Aaron Donald, but you better be a Pro Bowl caliber player to make sure the defensive front is going to be good. Maybe an All Pro. We'll see. That'd be better for the Rams. But it's all these unknowns, and you have a new DC and Chris Shula. Maybe he's trying new things that you've never done before with this defensive front that's so young, first year, second year. So that to me, we're going to find out very quickly because I'm tired of talking about it and saying, okay, well, they have a first round pick here and a second round pick. Well, they got to play first. We got to see how can they play, and we're gonna find out on Sunday night.
Yeah, and one of the things I've heard, like I said, from either Kirk Morrison and the Marco Four is that they've said that with Chris Shula's defense, he's going to be more aggressive. It's going to look a little different. So I'm with you. I can't wait to see how they're going to look against this Lions offense, this Porn Lions offense, and I think we'll both talk about it when we get to our keys to the game. But yeah, and then the next one, Gilbert, just moving on to the offensive line and what uh LG fella had to say is how concerning is the shuffling on the offensive line. Like I'll start off with this and then I'll let you respond to it. Is you have Steve Avila you're moving him. You had him be the center for most of training camp and the preseason, and now you're gonna move Jonah Jackson. Now I'm wondering if this is just Sean McVay playing head games with the Lions, or is this for real? Like this is what's gonna happen, and is the injury a lot worse than we're being told? There's a lot of question marks with this, and I can understand the frustration from uh LG fella there because I mean, what are you doing with your offensive line right now at this point when you're you, week one as you're getting ready to start the season, Gilbert?
Honestly, I'm losing track. Can you refresh my memory of what the heck the week one lineup might look like for Sunday Night Football?
So from what we've been told for this week from the B reporters is that it sounds like Jonah Jackson is going to start at center. You're going to have uh um Steve Avila left guard and Kevin Dotson, and then Joe Nobum at left tackle, and
Okay.
then Rob Havenstein at right tackle.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. It's weird because you did, try Steve Avila for so long at center, and now like, you know what? Never mind. I think Jordan Jackson. I don't know if he had much experience playing center, but I remember when they signed him, they're like, you know what? If it came down to it, he said he's okay playing center. So maybe they always had that in their back pocket, but it doesn't make sense to me there. And yeah, Avila was a great left guard, but you had something in mind, and I get when you have Larry Jackson, missing 2 games is not ideal. But like when he comes back, are you gonna go back to your original lineup? It's just also just too much shuffling. So I don't get it. Maybe they feel like I would like a help out Nopum, who might be a little bit of a weakness point at left tackle when you're playing Aiden Hutchinson. Maybe from that standpoint, I get it. But like Jonah Jackson was also a pretty damn good guard, so I don't understand the thinking at all.
Yeah, and I mean that's what we were told, that the reason they didn't go after Coleman Shelton or resign him was because they wanted to have Steve Avila be the center, which made sense. That's what the position he played at TCU, and then Jonah Jackson also played center at college. So I understand that, but and when we asked Adam about it, Adam Grosbart, he said, well, they're just doing cross training. And we even heard that Bo Limmer was getting, snaps at center, which I was like, okay, maybe Jonah Jackson isn't going to be ready. But now it's just weird. Like, I don't know if it has to do with the environment there because Jackson, if they're doing this because Alaric Jackson's going to be out for the first 2 games, does that mean that Jonah Jackson goes back to left guard? I mean, it just sounds like a mess to me. But I trust Sean McVay. I mean, it's hard. Like the guy, it's just, and one of the things that kind of frustrates Ram fans, and I've been seeing it everywhere, is like we want to know more, but at the same time, I get why he's secretive and he doesn't want to give out his secrets out there. So I get it. I guess that's why I'm with you. I can't wait till Sunday night because we're gonna find out what the real story is.
Yeah, it's tough to understand right now, but I do get that Joe Nopum could be a liability. He did not really do much with the job opportunity to be the left tackle the last couple of years, and he lost the job to Jackson there. So maybe they're seeing something there. I don't know. Maybe it was just for the week because you are facing Aiden Hutchinson there, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, but let's move on now quickly, Gilbert, to player matchups to watch. You want to start or you want me to give you mine?
Uh, yeah, I think mine was the running backs, right, for the Lions. Is that what it
Let me
was?
check.
I'm forgetting.
Let me check for you. You have, yes, Lions running backs against the Rams front.
Yeah, again, as you probably not surprised here, but I am concerned about the defensive front because yeah, you can have all the talent in the world, but there's still young bucks there, first round picks, second round picks, whatever, but they're still first year players, second year players without Aaron Donald, and now you got to worry about this rushing attack that was probably the best in football last year. Uh, Two different dominant running backs in Dave Montgomery. You got the He's a bruiser, short yardage situation. Could be maybe on most teams a three down back, but you can't when you have Jameer Gibbs, who's very explosive, could take it to the house, and that's the real danger. Like if Jameer Gibbs is getting a group because Montgomery's moving the chains, and you don't know which one's coming at you, and you don't have Ernest Jones back there to help you out to be kind of an eraser there, that's an issue right there. So, and you have an older secondary. So to me, this rushing attack is going to really dictate. Like, yeah, you can have good pass rushers, but if you can't stop the run or set the edge, like that's going to be a problem all day.
Yeah, and part of it too, they have a new guard there in Seidler who came over from the Ravens. He played pretty well for most of the season for the Ravens. If I'm not mistaken, and then
Yeah,
he
he's a
kind of
little
faded.
older, but he's been a good player.
Yeah, and so and then and they're going to move the pocket there, as we talked about. They're going to run the ball with those two running backs, and it's going to be a problem if the Rams can't stop the run. I'm with you. For me, it's going to be the wide receiver trio of the Rams against that new look secondary, as you talked about earlier, Gilbert. Puka went for 181 yards, which was a career high in that playoff loss to the Lions. And I just want to see what happens there because, as we talked about, can Terrion Arnold and and Carlton Davis, are they able to slow down Cooper Cup? Cooper Cup is the healthiest we've seen him since 2021, and one of the things that we kind of tease a couple weeks ago, you shared a video, a short of, do the Rams have the best trio in the NFL? And people didn't know who Demarcus Robinson is, and he played really well once he kind of was inserted as a third wide receiver. You also have Jordan Whittington, but I think for this game, I think those three guys are going to be huge in this game, and I kind of want to see how that secondary does against what Sean McVay is going to do with those three receivers.
Yeah, that was a funny YouTube short clip that I posted that got a lot of people pretty upset when I said name a better trio. I was having fun. I don't know if they're the best trio, but they're pretty good. And the way people in the comments were like, "Oh no, they're terrible. They stink." I'm like, "Well, clearly you didn't watch what Demarcus Robinson
Yes.
did. Who knows? Maybe it's Jordan Whittington. Who knows?" But when you have a good one too with Puka and Cooper Cup. Like it doesn't get too much better at 1-2. Like there's not a lot of teams that have a better 1-2. Maybe like 5 or 6 teams, but like for the most of the league, like you can't compare it to the first two. And yeah, there's a little drop off with the number 3 wide receiver, but he was very productive. He fits the scheme. He has a home in Los Angeles. Like it's just going right there. So you don't have to have a star. I don't think most teams have three Pro Bowlers at wide receiver. They have three good ones, but not three Pro Bowlers. So
Yeah.
people like to get all worked up about that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and people will usually pick like the two guys that they have, like, if you look at Jamar Chase and you go T Higgins, and then you're like, who's the third guy? And it's like, well, it doesn't matter because those first two are really good. And it's like, no, like you need to be well rounded. Like I even saw somebody say Miami because they had OBJ. I'm like, OBJ
Get out
hasn't
of
been
there.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
OBJ hasn't been good in 5 years. I'm sorry, but it's been a while. So all right, moving on to keys to the game, Gilbert. Go ahead and start off.
Yeah.
Yours was about a certain edge rusher for the Lions.
Yeah, I probably sound like a broken record. We've been talking about it, but you gotta somehow contain Aiden Hutchinson. He could definitely ruin the game for you when you're having issues at left tackle. Your right tackle is banged up. You have a shuffling fest there in the interior. He could definitely ruin the game for you. That could definitely hinder your rushing attack too. But somehow find a way where you could have max protection, help out, whatever. Just make sure this guy's not wrecking the game for you because he creates fumbles. He creates turnovers. He's able to blow up plays in the backfield. So he got better last year. That only tells me he could get better for year 3.
Yeah, and I mean he's on the up start. Like he's gonna take it to the next level. I was surprised he fell to the Lions there. I still don't understand what the Jags were thinking not drafting him, but hey, it helped out the Lions that he fell to them. But and like every time I see him, he kind of reminds me of a younger version of Max Crosby, like a guy who was drafted early and actually lived up to the potential, which is kind of hard with edge rushers, especially coming out of a big school in Michigan. He got to stay home, so that was great. But yeah, I think he's a guy that I know some people have kind of predicted or taken as a defensive player of the year candidate for an award this season. So he will be someone to kind of keep an eye on. I think if the Lions are to make it to the Super Bowl, he is going to be a big key because they're going to need his pressures and his sacks this season. For me, Gilbert, I'm moving over to the other side, and I'm gonna share some comments here because it goes right with what I want to talk about. And we have on night here. He says, "Way to quiet that four-field crowd is him quick score 3 touchdowns to shut them down." And then I had on nights also said, "Start fast and score quick." And for me, it has to do with control the clock with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum to keep the Lions offense and the crowd out of Ford Field from having their way with that young Rams defense. And um, you know, one of the things I also saw was that the Lions defense was number 2 in rush defense last season. So they're not going to be easy to get pushed around. But part of the reason, Gilbert, you went out and you signed Jonah Jackson is because you wanted to run the ball. You wanted to be more physical up front. This is your great opportunity. Go out there and help out your defense, who is young, who you don't know what to expect from. So what do? You go and you run the ball with Kyron Williams and Blake Coral, and you set up your play action for Puka Nakua, for Cooper Cup, for Demarcus Robinson, as we talked about earlier. I think for them to win this game, it's gonna come down to controlling the clock because you want to keep the Lions offense out of the field, and you also don't want that crowd to get into this game because it's gonna be a long night if that happens, Gilbert.
Yeah, honestly, the running back committee, the way they use Kyron and Blake Corum, I'm very fascinated to see how that develops. Obviously, the big mystery is the defense and how they play, but they drafted Blake Corum for a reason, not just to be in case of an emergency of an injury to Kyron Williams. I think it's going to be have a big part in the offense, not to the point where like Kyron Williams is like it's not doing much, but like maybe it's their version of what the Lions had with two-headed monster. They found like you remember this, Victor? Like I had both guys, Montgomery and Gibbs. I got to the point where I was playing both of them because they're both going to produce. Like the
Yep.
Lions made that happen. Maybe the Rams could do something. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself there, but I can't wait to see how they do that. Sean McVay, how do you? Because it's such a tough thing to do to get two running backs to get in rhythm and also make them have a big impact in the game because most of the time it's one guy who really does the work and then one's kind of like the guy to help you out, change your pace, give you a breather, things like that. But the way the Lions did it, man, like they have two guys help you out like that. Maybe the Rams were trying to go for that too.
Yeah, and especially if you, like I said, if you pay for that offensive line, I get it. You don't have Alaric Jackson, but it's not that big of a fallout between Alaric Jackson and Joe Noble. At least not for me. I mean, I would understand if it was Andre Whitworth. You had a Hall of Fame type of left tackle back there, but it's not that. And some left tackles like, to be, they like being a passing blocker. Others like to be run blockers. It feels like Joe Noble, just because he's been able to be able to play inside and outside, I think he prefers to be a run blocker. And I think if you're gonna do that, of course, you have to put the Lions defense on notice there by being able to also pass the ball. But if you can dictate the game by your running, then that helps as well. But AG Fella has a question here. It says, but is Kyron the go-to guy with him being on special teams? What do you think?
Yeah, we've already touched on this, but like you don't forget about what Kyron did a year ago and just what can make him the number two. I think it's gonna be Kyron's job, and yeah, maybe if he struggles for like a month, then maybe Blake Crum takes the snaps. But I think Kyron is still gonna be the go-to guy for sure.
Yep. And I know we're running a little late, so we're going to keep this quick, Gilbert. We're moving on to our betting spotlight. The Rams are 3.5 point underdogs, and the over under is 51 and a half. Now, let me give you some stats before we get to our, which way you're thinking about uh, betting this game, Gilbert. And let me just give you some stats. And you kind of talked about the Sharps having some money on the Rams here. Sean McVay is 6-1 in season openers. The only loss, you were there, and it was the game versus the Bills on Banner Night, 31-10, lost to the Bills at SoFi Stadium in 2022. He's 2-1 against the Lions, 2018. The Rams won 30-16 in Detroit, and then in 2021 the Rams win 20-19 at home. And then in 2023 playoffs, they lost to the Lions 24-23. One other interesting thing in terms that I saw here is that the Detroit Lions are 0-2-1 as home openers, but this is the first time they're a favorite at home for a season opener since 2020. So I mean, all those stats kind of go off out the window because this is a new Lions team, so they haven't been season favorites for a while there. So Gilbert, how would you bet this side of the game? It's a 3 point. Actually, it went down to three now, Gilbert. Sorry. So the updated is the Rams are 3 point underdogs, which kind of makes it a pick 'em because you get 3 points for being the home team. And then the over under is 51 and a half.
Yeah, I've been seeing it go back and forth, 3.5 and a three. So it kind of tells me the public is split on the Lions and the Rams, and the Sharps are high on the Rams to win a division and maybe become like a trendy long shot to win the Super Bowl. But when it comes to this game, I think you put all the overall status aside because the Lions are at home. They're very good. Yes, I guess Sean McVay has won a lot of season openers, and you get to scheme up for like 2, 3 months, whatever you want there. But uh, I feel like the Lions, have a very good roster. They've already shown they know how to play under pressure. You know, it's going to be a hostile environment there. They have maybe the best roster in the NFL. So I just have too many concerns with the Rams. I know I've been, talking about it a lot in defense, offensive line, whatever, but I could totally see the Rams. It could be a close game, but I could see the Lions taking care of this 3.5 points here. But, I don't like the win over the 3.5, but I could totally see the Lions winning by, I don't know, 4, maybe a touchdown game here.
And what about the over under?
That one I will go under. I think that there are two physical teams, two teams that want to run the football. Like you mentioned, the Rams don't want their defense out there for a long stretches, so I could definitely see the under. That's pretty high here, 51.5. They're two very explosive offenses. I get the 51.5, but the game script, the game flow, what they want to do, I could see it going under.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a heavy run game. I'm with you. So I would take the under here. We saw it in the playoff game. I know it was a playoff game, but these two teams who were high power, everybody expected a big explosive game. They only scored like 9 points in the second half. So
Yeah.
that should tell you that these teams are wanting to run the ball. I think special teams is going to be huge in this game. But I'm with you. I this line is the fact that it went down to 3 tells you a lot. I think there's a lot of sharps betting the Rams here just because of we know what to expect from Sean McVay as we talked about. They're 6-1. He's gonna script this game to his advantage. And now, Gilbert, let's head over to our game predictions. But before we do, Gilbert, we have a couple of comments here that we want to get to here. He LG fella says I'm really unsettled with the Rams' recent move, so he
We
might
could
be
tell.
picking the Lions here. Michael Armenta says Rams must get touchdowns in the red zone, not field goals. That's huge. And our guy Steve On says if Gilberto chooses the Lions to beat the Rams and the Rams win, Gilberto holds the next show from the Starbucks. So there you go.
Hey, I think at least from my point of view, the Wi-Fi got better, so I don't need to go to
Yes.
Starbucks right now. So
Yeah.
it's been a good show so far. But see, if the Wi-Fi goes down in the next 5 minutes before we get out of here, it's gonna be your fault for jinxing it. But I am ready to make a pick, and
Let's
I
go,
know I
Gilbert. Go ahead.
Steve's not gonna be
Uh,
happy.
yes, go ahead.
Yeah, as you can tell, the way I've been leaning or been talking about the Lions, I'm very high on the Lions here. I have my concerns with the Rams. This doesn't mean it's going to be how the Rams are going to be for the whole year. It's one game. I learned that the hard way last year after their 5 game stretch to open the season was very daunting. They turned it around. So but I think the Lions are the better team. The Lions are at home. You have a good coach in Dan Campbell. You have a good play caller and Ben Johnson. The defense has more depth. A little more experienced players. And then you have some moving parts with the new look secondary. But Carlton Davis is a veteran. We'll see with Terrion Arnold, who's a rookie. He might get caught up with Cooper Cup and Puka Nakua, but for the most part, this team is very loaded. Yeah, you might not have DJ Reader, but just Aiden Hutchinson versus that kind of banged up Rams offensive line left side, I don't feel good about it. Obviously, I don't feel good about the Rams defense going up against an experienced offense like the Lions. So just too many concerns for me. So I will take the home team here, and it could be a close game, but I feel like at the end, maybe after 5 minutes, in the fourth quarter, the experienced team at home takes it away. Oh, now I
Yeah.
give you a score, right?
Yes.
And I went pretty low scoring. So you know what? I'll go 24-20 Lions. Lions cover and the under hits.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to get my thoughts here. So I've been going back and forth on this game. Before when we got the schedule, I said the Lions are going to win this game. There's no doubt about it. And the more I kind of dug into some numbers, and I listening as you talked about people in Vegas, there's reasons why there's casinos out there. Is because they always win. They know, how to pick these games. And I looked at Sean McVay's record. He's 6-1. We talked about nobody gave him a chance last season to go to Seattle and win. And he pulled that off. As I said, they're 6-1 for a reason under Sean McVay. That season, the one loss was against the Bills, and we understood why. And I'm with you. I have a lot of concerns with this Rams defense as well. But when it comes down to it, I just trust Sean McVay and what he can do to win games. And I'm not saying that the Rams are gonna go undefeated here. I'm not, but You give Sean McVay this much time to prepare for a matchup. He's already over here talking a lot about certain situations, and I just every time I hear stuff like that from Sean McVay, I no longer just it doesn't I don't take it to heart in terms of how I'm gonna make my decisions when it comes to picking a game. I'm just gonna say, you know what? He's either playing head games or he's just trying to protect his players at this point. So, to make a long story short here, Gilbert, I'm gonna go with the Rams. I changed my mind. I'm picking them to win and keep the under 30-28 over the Lions. Um, sorry, it
Over.
was it's the over. I'm gonna go with the over here, 30-28. I just think that, like I said, I just believe in Sean McVay and what he can do. It's going to be a hostile environment. It's not going to be great. But like I said, you give Sean McVay, just like Andy Reid, you give him the offseason to prepare for a matchup against the Lions instead of a week, which they had last time in the playoff game. It's a different outcome for myself. So I just think that we'll see. I can't wait. This is why we'll learn more about this team after this game. But you're asking me to pick between Dan Campbell and Sean McVay. I'm gonna go with Sean McVay.
Okay, yeah. When you mentioned the home opener stats, it's hard to disagree. But it's hard playing in Detroit. So we'll
Yes,
see who's right here, and it's good to be different. And just to go off, what Michael and Steve are saying in the comments, I'm glad that there's people on this show and channel appreciate that we're not, just, I'm not a fan. I'll say that, but I know Victor, you're wearing a Rams gear. You're more of a supporter than I am, but I'm an NFL reporter, so I try to give you unbiased opinions here. Sometimes I'm gonna be a little harsh, a little critical. I'm not afraid to speak my mind. That's why they pay me to write columns by SI. So I think yesterday I'll come on the beat to give the Chargers fans some crap there. There's a lot of Charger fans that watch us. Shout out to the Chargers fans, and also shout out to the Rams fans that watch on Compass on the beat. But they gave a lot of crap for picking the Raiders to go to the playoffs and not the Chargers. So I get that. I could take it, but I appreciate that you guys understand that we're trying to give you unbiased opinions. Michael saying, Michael Armenta saying, I appreciate you guys, your analysis, your insight. There you go. You want to hear just positive takes, and I'm gonna be like Suge Knight again. Then go to those Homer podcasts and those Rams podcasts. I get it. You want to be all positive, but I just love that people understand that we're trying to give you a little bit of both sides. And that's the cool thing
yeah,
about Victor. Now we have different opinions. We're not afraid to have different, analysis and viewpoints. So that's cool, Michael. That's why I really appreciate that comment. Steve, and I also, if I get it wrong, give me crap, give me a hard time. I know how to take
yes,
it. So Steve, yes, maybe I have to do something next week if the Rams end up beating the Detroit Lions. I won't be shocked. I'm just telling you, I think the Lions are going to win here. But to read Steve's comment here, Sean McVay doesn't have the same concerns on defense. That is true. I don't know, man. You never know. The Rams will win this Sunday in a dominant fashion, and Gilberto at the host from Victor's home next to Victor. Actually, that is punishment because I moved. I don't live in the valley anymore. It's like a 90-minute drive to get over there. So that would be punishment, Steve. I like it. So, yes,
yes,
when I'm wrong, let me know because that is a fun side about a show where you can have different
yeah.
opinions.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I mean, I love seeing these comments like the one we got from Michael because as we talked about, we try to be right up the middle. I'm not gonna give you, the pom pom stuff with the Rams here. As I told you, I'm gonna my Gilbert's giving you his perspective as a national writer. That's why he started this podcast, and then he asked me to join. And my thing is, I'm a producer. I'm gonna give you all the information. I'm gonna make sure you know everything you need to know about this game. I'm kind of boring in that way, like I'm the nerd when it comes to this kind of stuff. So that's the angle that I take when we talk about these topics. And so for me it's about having a discussion. And honestly, Gilbert, this show is guys like Steve On and LG Fella, like Michael Armenta, like this Delbert, who's been on here a while now. It's their show. Like you guys tell us, like we love hearing the feedback because we want to know how to improve this show and how to make it yours. Because like as I told you, like without you guys, we don't have this platform. We're not able to do this. Yeah, like you know, Gilbert is, he's a national reporter and he's able to get guys on this show, from his days with the being the beat writer for the Rams. And so that's the cool thing about this, and that's a different perspective there's a lot of shows out there that I can tell you with the Rams that don't get beat reporters. I've seen it. It's hard for beat reporters to go on there just because a lot of them are aggregators. And so that's where we come from. And I'm really glad to see that people are really enjoying this show. And we can't wait. We have a lot of content for you guys, as we talked about. We're gonna be on after the show. We're gonna after this post game show, we're against the Lions. So look for us. We'll have a post game show for you guys as well, and then we're looking to have a live show from the SoFi parking lot for
Yeah.
potentially this season. So if you guys let us know where we can have the show from in the parking lot, let us know. We'll like to join and have the show from there. So that's another thing that we're working on for this season. So it'll be something cool to kind of see. So before we go, Gilbert, just want to get your reaction to that.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to plug, especially an idea that we're trying to think of because at least for me and also for Fernando because he covers the Chargers. Like Sundays are very hard to get out and kind of hang out with the tailgating people because we've gotten Rams fans, we've gotten Chargers fans say, hey, come out to a tailgate, and we're very it's very cool to hear that. I'm very grateful to hear things like that and people being kind and giving us invites. But like I started thinking, okay, when there's primetime games, I have more time to do things like that, to go host a show from the tailgate at SoFi Stadium. So it's just I don't know where to go. So in the comments or send me an email. You can put up our emails if you want, Victor. Gilberto at
Yes.
compasonthebeat.com or Victor at compasonthebeat.com. If are part of one of the Rams fan club and you have a tailgate spot, a section, let us know because I'm forgetting the second game, but I know the first game. There might be two in November. First game is a Thursday night football against the Minnesota Vikings. That's a Thursday night
Right.
game,
And the
prime
other one
time.
is against the 49ers on Thursday
That
night.
okay, there you go. So I would love to go to both of them before get out there early, and that way by the time we're done hosting the show and talking and mingling with people, I get to go to the stadium to work on my stories. So when it's one game, I could definitely focus. On Sundays, it's tough to do, but we want to make that happen. We've been able to do. We've been pretty fortunate to have equipment and then learn how to use equipment in remotely or on site. We want to start doing more of that. So yeah, good reminder, Victor. So if you know where people hang out for Rams home games, those two primetime games, we want to make it out. And obviously, we want to make it out for the one Chargers primetime game. I think it's the Ravens versus the Chargers on Monday Night Football. So hopefully 3 games at SoFi Stadium for the Compass on the Beat Network. But House of Horns, it'll be very cool to have something out there and mingle with people. But yeah, so we're gonna have another promo. If you want to learn more about the NFL and the entire NFL, we're gonna have
Yep.
our usual Thursday show. But we're gonna rename it to Gilberto's Hour. Gilberto with the HEEL. A little play on words there. Gilberto's Hour, where I just kind of give you my takes about the NFL week one, give you some picks, talk about betting, talk about fantasy football, and definitely maybe some things are just in my mind to go off on a rant or give you some pointers. But also, like you said, Victor, for House of Horns, we want to make Gilberto's hours also very, good engagement for people watching because, without you guys, we can't really do this. If you're watching and you're subscribing, you're liking, this video's getting going wild in the algorithm, it's because of you guys. So comments, questions, discussions. We don't want to be the experts and the know-it-alls and just say, listen to me. If you have comments, you disagree, let's talk about it. So you could do more of that in terms of the whole entire NFL landscape after Thursday Night Football on the Compass on the Beat YouTube channel. We're going to link it to this one too, House of Horns. Sometimes people are all confused, like, why is there a Chargers conversation on House of Horns? Like, we like to link everything from the Compass on the Beat main channel. So I'm guessing like what 8:30, 8:45 on Thursday night after Ravens and the Chiefs will jump on for an hour and have fun, some discussions. A little late night there, but that's probably the best time for us. And then obviously, like you mentioned, Victor, very late after Sunday Night Football on Sunday, Rams and the Lions. We're gonna jump on here on House of Horns and talk about the game.
Yeah, so join us, and then if you can make it, we'll repost the whole episode later on the next day. So make sure you keep it locked. And like I said, we're gonna have a preview show for you guys. And if things really pick up, maybe we can do a pregame show. We'll see how things go. But as of now, our plan is to have a preview show like we do on Wednesday nights at 6:30, and then same thing with the post game show. We'll let you guys know what time we'll jump on right after the game. We still haven't discussed what we're going to do with the 10 a.m. games because we don't know if people want to react right away after
Mm.
the 1 o'clock games or we're going to do it later on in the afternoon. So, yeah, give us your feedback. Let us know what you guys think. But before we go, Gilbert, let me get to some of these comments so that way I want to make sure we include everybody on here. So we have DJ Fono. He says that Kobe Turner singing the national anthem at the Lions game. So you heard it here first. I think that would be kind of hard. He'd have to do it in
Yeah.
his uniform. So that'll be something to see. Um, we have AG Fella says, I agree. I'm afraid my Rams will drop this one 21-17. So he's with you. He says, I hate to say it really hurts. I really like this show because of the real talk, he says. So
Thank you,
that's good to
Al. Not
hear.
not AI. Al
Yeah,
G fella.
LG fella. And he says, I coached for over 45 years at all levels. I like
Nice.
the reality of the game. So
Very
there we go.
cool.
And then Steve On says, apparently I missed this, so I haven't seen this. So sorry I got to the show late, but didn't last week's guest get dressed down by McVay? I was feeling kind of
I
bad
didn't
for
see
him, so
that.
I didn't see that. So I'll
Oh,
I'll uh, I'll check this out, Steve, and if that's the case, we'll talk about it after the post game show,
yeah.
and maybe
You're
we
not a
can
beat
have
reporter if you haven't got a couple side eyes and remarks
yeah.
or nasty not nasty comments, but like snarky or snippy comments from Sean McVay. I got a couple when I was covering the team.
Yeah, and you're just trying to ask different questions. And sometimes coaches, they're not in the mood sometimes, and it's part of the job. At the end of the day, they know it's a job, and they get to see these guys every week. It's a hard job, but someone's got to do it, and that's just the way it is. Not everybody, as we talked about. We love Gary Klein. We love Adam Grossbart, everybody that all the beat reporters that have been able to join us. It's been awesome, and we really appreciate them. Yeah, it's Adam
Yeah,
Grossbart. He
Adam
was
Grossbart.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
quick
yeah.
story, Steve. One time I pissed off Sean McVay when I think it was the last game in Seattle. Yeah, when they wanted to win for Bobby Wagner, they lost.
Oh yeah.
And then they everybody was speculating if Sean McVay's going to leave to take a job with the TV booth and do whatever Thursday Night Football or who knows. And I'm like, hey, Sean, you don't want to talk about it, but I'm going to ask you, man. Like, at any point did you feel like that was my last play call? That was my last something? Anything? Did it feel like it was your last something? He's like, I'm not going to talk about that, Gilberto. I was like, okay, man. And then the next day, he's like, yeah, you know what? I thought about it when you said that, Gilberto. And I was like, more like, I need to have some time away before I really process that. That told me, by the way, that he wasn't ready to go because you're not thinking about this could be your last thing, your last that. That means you're ready to play or coach some more. So I probably should have known back then.
Okay, one more thing here from Steven says he was asking about Ernest Jones getting traded. So can I give you a
Ah,
quick story? I don't know if you saw his tweets from Adam Grossbart, but I he put a couple of tweets out about Ernest Jones that honestly, you will enjoy this, Gilbert, who you recently lost your dog Cam, but apparently Ernest Jones, his dog had a litter of puppies, right? And so he felt bad about getting rid of them. So what he ended up doing was he ended up finding homes for them so they wouldn't separate, they wouldn't be apart too far away. He ended up placing them in homes with his neighbors here in LA.
wow.
And so he said, him getting traded, his first thought was, what's going to happen with Ernest Jones's dogs? Because now he's going to have to move to Tennessee and those dogs are no longer going to be together. So I thought it was a cool little tidbit. Some people might not care. Hey, you're losing a guy in Ernest Jones. But to me, I like those kind of cool little, stories that, like, I didn't know about Ernest Jones's dogs and how it connected him to his little community there. But it tells you all these guys have a story, and sometimes you're gonna hear a question from somebody. You're like, why the heck did that reporter ask him that? It's because they're working on their
Yeah.
own
Yeah.
story, and this is why, like, and I know I'm gonna kind of go on a tangent here, Gilbert, but why it's important to have those one-on-one conversations with players, because being able to have that report, I know they're trying to close down their locker rooms, but being able to create those relationships really helps. And as you talked about, like the next day, McVay came over and he said, hey, I thought about it. I'm sure the same thing happened with Adam there. And you're gonna, it's part of the business of being a reporter.
Yeah, and And I know we got to get going, but Ernest
Yeah.
Jones was he was very he made my job easier. He's very outgoing, very easygoing person to talk to, a very kind person. And I remember even that Seattle game I just brought up, like when everybody was pissed off about losing, I'm like, I gotta talk to somebody. I gotta write a story. Ernest Jones, stood up in front of my camera or my microphone, and he's like, "What do you got, man?" Asked me the questions. We spoke for 20 minutes and how this season meant a lot to him. It was a very difficult season, but that's why he became a captain. He was a very when things are tough and you got to talk about a loss and you're in front of reporters talking. Like I'm not the most difficult reporter to work with. I'm not gonna like bite your head off, but it told me a lot. So I think the Titans got a good player, and that's why I'm a little more confused about why they traded him. But I get it's a business, and everybody has their different scheme fits and different things to address.
All right, Gilbert, before we close this show, we had a good show. It's been over an hour and a half. We really appreciate everybody staying with us and joining us today. Honestly, can't wait. Tomorrow is the start of long, it's going to be a good 6 months of football here. But Steve On says, I remember him asking you how to pronounce your name. So there you
Yeah,
go,
that was
Gilbert.
nice of him to even ask. Some people don't even bother asking, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, and yeah, that's part of the reason. If you check out tomorrow's show, Gilberto's Hour, I think that's part of the fun of that show, and we're gonna have fun. Stay tuned. We can't wait for everybody to join us tomorrow. But yeah, that's all we have for you guys today. We only do it once a week, but we give you guys as much information. You have a NFL staff writer here uh, from Sports Illustrated MMQB. So we try to give you as much information and kind of empty out the notebook as they say. But Gilbert, that does it. Let's go ahead and close the shop. Let's get ready for some football now. I,
Yeah.
I can't wait. It's been a long 4 months since we haven't had NFL football. So let's get to this matchup. I can't wait to see how this one turns out.
Yeah, let's get ready to go to week one of the NFL schedule. Season opener, Chiefs versus Ravens. Then you got the game Brazil, Eagles, and the Packers. Then eventually we'll get to Sunday night football, the Los Angeles Rams and the Detroit Lions. But we discussed it all here. We broke it all down. If you're watching the replay, comment, don't be shy. Give us your thoughts, give us your questions, give us your discussions, whatever it is. Tell me that I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Do it respectfully, but it's okay. I could take it. But it's time to get going here. We've been in here for 90 minutes, and we appreciate all the comments, all the insight, all the engagement. But on that note, ya nos vamos, pues, vámonos.